Hello and welcome back. I'm Tech Sergeant Stephen Wynn with WNN, and here is your February edition of Monthly News for 2014. With the promotion of the Wing Commander to Brigadier General, I would like to remind airmen to utilize proper customs and courtesies. You will notice that the plates on General Vautrin's staff car have changed to reflect his promotion. According to AFI 34-1201, a member not in formation but in uniform will salute a United States Air Force officer of senior rank in a government vehicle, when distinguished by plates or flags. When the salute is rendered to a senior officer in a vehicle, hold that salute until it is returned by the officer or after the vehicle has passed. The base ellipse has been closed for vehicle traffic for the winter months to preserve the recently renovated running track from potential snow removal damage. It should reopen sometime in the spring. The 439th Mission Support Group's base civil engineers almost swept the Reserve Command Unit and Flight Awards this year. This exceptional group of civilians and reservists took 5 out of 6 group awards. The Harry P. Reitman Award for the Outstanding Civil Engineer Individual Award went to Mr. Wayne Williams, and the Balkan Post Outside Agency Award was also won by the Mission Support Group. Congrats as well go out to Westover's 2013 annual award winners. Hailing from the AMDS, Senior Airman Amanda Collins is the Airman of the Year. From the Security Forces, Tech Sergeant Francis Sforza is the Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year. The Senior NCO of the Year is Master Sergeant Charles Carlin from LRS. Captain Bruce Lawler from Security Forces is the CGO of the Year. Mr. Jeffrey Rule of the Aircraft Maintenance Squadron is the Civilian Supervisor of the Year. And finally, Senior Master Sergeant Frederick Hetu of Security Forces is the First Sergeant of the Year. Use it or lose it. That is the message being passed down in regards to the morale, welfare, and recreation facilities on base. While they only receive minimal financial support from Reserve Command, the constant budget constraints the Department of Defense faces are forcing a closer look at how much these facilities are utilized. This will determine whether or not they will remain open through the coming years. So please patronize the bowling alley, outdoor rec, and the club to show your support. On Saturday, February 8th at 3:30, there will be a formal ceremony at the base hangar to commemorate our Wing Commander's December promotion to the prestigious rank of Brigadier General. Brigadier General Stephen Vautrin has been the Wing Commander here at Westover since August of 2011. Westover Strong is a new initiative intended to inform, enlighten, and inspire airmen to develop and grow in their Air Force careers. The first of these quarterly events was held on January 12th, the Sunday of the AUTA at the Consolidated Club. The next edition is scheduled for noon on Saturday of February's AUTA and is entitled Nutrition Matters, Eating Healthy in a Fast-Paced World. That's all for this month. Check out the Westover website where you can find a link to our Facebook page. It's constantly updated with stories and photos of what's going on at Westover. As always, if you have an event or function you would like to put on our show, please feel free to drop by the Public Affairs Office in Building 1850 or call 557-2020. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to check back in March to see what's going on.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy to see that 2014 has arrived. 2013 was kind of a tough year for everybody in this room. We survived it. We survived furloughs, shortened budgets, less man days, government shutdown, all that. And at the same time, we proved that we are the best wing in the 4th Air Force Reserve Command, and in the Air Force. Because we won the 4th Air Force Best Mission Support Group, Best Maintenance Group. We also had our CE won 5 of 6 AFRC awards, including Best CE in Air Force Reserve Command. So So we continue to excel. The CUI, we all know the results from the CUI. The team saw many, many more outstanding performers in this wing that they've seen in other wings. And it's evident every day in everything that you guys do. So even though 2013 was a tough year, it was still a good year for the wing. And looking forward to 2014. Hopefully the money situation will calm down a little bit. You all know that, like you can look up how authorizations and appropriations work. The authorization passed last year for FY14. They're working on the appropriation now. Looks like they're going to ease up on the sequestration. There's still going to be some changes to it, but it looks like we will have money to go beyond January 15th, because that's the end of the current continuing resolution, and we should be getting more money. We'll keep working on that. The headquarters has given us permission to spend what we have to the end of January, so that's good. We're not held up like we were back in September, and we'll continue fighting to get money so we can keep bringing you guys in and train and stay ready to go out and do the job that you're trained to do. So we're working on that. You might have heard some news about cutbacks in the Air Force. I highly recommend watching the town hall and the video from our new Secretary of the Air Force. Things aren't looking great for the Air Force, but they're looking much better for the reserve component than they are for the active duty. We're talking about cuts of up to 25,000 personnel out of the active duty, but they're not talking any cuts for the reserve component. As a matter of fact, our end strength, which is determined in the authorization, is 70,400. And we actually have the recruiters going out to try to make sure we can make that goal. We'll be pushing pretty hard this year, and the Get One Now program is coming back. It's been around, it's kind of waned, but it's starting to come back. And it's actually a website that you can go to, you can volunteer up, you can refer people to come into the reserve. If you do, then you get awards. And it used to be things like snowboards and iPods and laptops and stuff like that. So that's good news. And obviously, if there's giving away stuff for us to recruit people into the reserve, they're not looking at cutting back on the reserve. We'll probably see some budgetary issues, but I don't think it's anything like it was in 2013. So 2014 is looking pretty good that way. We're also working on a program to look out for the airmen. You might have seen the pop-up. They came up twice on the computers. I know Comm Squadron's working on that, right? Chief Carbon, wherever you are out there? Good. So just gives you twice a chance to read this stuff. You should be reading it, not clicking through it. Not that I would ever do that. But the Westover Strong program is to help people with their mental, physical, spiritual wellness. We'll be doing it throughout the year. The first quarter focuses on physical fitness. And tomorrow at the new club, which I'll talk about in a minute, we have a guest speaker coming in. She's a mother of 3. She has a full-time job, and she just did her first triathlon. So obviously, if she can find time in her busy schedule to stay fit to a triathlon, then we can too. So that's going to be up at the club. It's on the pop-up, and we also sent out the emails for that. So Westover Strong will be doing that throughout 2014. Good programs. We're making good use of the new club, so you can go up there, have lunch, and listen to a speaker while you're there. Last night we had kind of a preview. I had my holiday social. We had a little bit late this year, which was great. Club staff did an awesome job. The club is looking wonderful. I know most of you have probably already eaten there because I know breakfast and lunch was open. It was packed. We're probably looking at the parking situation, how the parking's laid out, but that's something for me to worry about later on in the year. But for right now, it's open. It's looking great. We're going to be having a reception up there after this for Hank Horton, his family, as he comes in as our new honorary commander. And we already recognize Bud Schuback for his awesome job that he did last year. He's our first honorary commander, and I'm sure that Hank will continue in his large shoes quite well. So if you have a chance, come out to the club after we get done here. It's going to be the grand opening of the club and the bar tonight. And then, of course, we know the Patriots are playing the first playoff game. And they've got 6 TVs in there at the bar, so I'm sure that all those will be turned on to the playoff game. So looking forward to a great year in 2014. I think that we'll continue to pull together as Team Westover, as Westover family, and as the Patriot wing. And as I always like to end up his commander's calls with, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here, and you guys know what to answer. So who's the best wing in the 4th Air Force? Who's the best wing in AFRC? Who's the best wing in the Air Force? Got that right. Thank you.
see the staff car out there?
No, I didn't even notice
No?
that.
Yeah, you definitely gotta look at the street, at the staff cars. They come, sometimes they come out of nowhere. You gotta look, you gotta salute the staff cars. Just make sure, you know, when you're out in the streets, make sure you use your situation awareness.
Happy New Year, Patriot win. I would like to take this opportunity to remind you the General Vote Train has been promoted as of 20 December 2013. Customs and courtesies dictate a hand salute whether he walks by you or you see his vehicle. When a staff car goes by you, please remember, identify the plate, and realize whether it's the group commanders or the wing commander, a hand salute is necessary and required until either that senior officer presents a hand salute back to you or the vehicle passes. Please remember that we have distinguished visitors on this installation, and our tenant units also have flag officers in their ranks. Please remember that customs and courtesies are a needed necessity to ensure the good order and discipline here at Westover. Thank you and have a great year.
I'm Master Sergeant Andrew Biscoe here at the Westover Isochronal Inspection Dock, where we have Senior Airman Matt Bowen, part of the 439th Maintenance Squadron. And Airman Bowen is going to tell us today about this unusual visitor we have here. Yes, it's a C-5 behind me. No, that's not unusual. But in a way it is, because it's a C-5C. Only two in the whole Air Force right here in our ISO dock. And Airman Bowen's going to tell us a little bit about why it's here.
Well, currently it's here for a ISO minor inspection. What we do is we take apart certain key components and we try to find any cracks, anything loose, anything missing, and we pretty much just go over the whole plane with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that everything is properly operational.
And what makes this airplane so different than other C-5s?
Well, this C-5 in 1988 was modified for the space program, and there's two of them like this. This one right here, it was chosen to be redone because it actually had a nose landing gear failure when it was landing. So since it already had to go through some major renovations, they decided to put this one into the program to be changed into a C model. The second one had a fire in the troop compartment during a depot level maintenance. So since that one already had a ripped up troop compartment, they decided to convert that one also into a C. And these ones, they have the troop ripped out because they need to fit in extremely large cargo for the space program.
And I'm correct in saying these are unique. There's only two of them.
Yes, they're very unique. There's only two in the entire Air Force.
And now that some people that have heard that it's here have said, oh, it carries around parts for the space shuttle, but the space shuttle no longer flies, so what does it carry now?
It also can carry different rockets and components for NASA, such as in 1999, it carried the Atlas IIA rocket down to Florida in order to prep for a space launch.
And so, without that troop deck in the back of the cargo, which we'll go see very soon, in the back of the cargo deck, we'll be seeing an entirely different airplane here today as we go forward into this gigantic plane, which seems even bigger without the troop deck in it. And how long will it take for you folks to finish all this and get this big bird out of here?
A typical ISO inspection will take around 14 days, give or take, depending on the different discrepancies that we do find.
And how many, while we're in here, I want to ask this too. The C-5 is an incredibly complex plane. How long does it take for you guys to take one apart, so to speak, put it all back together and get it out there to our warfighters again?
Well, we start off with a pre-dock. We take apart a bunch of things, make sure that it is okay to go into the stands, pull it in, take panels off, perform inspections from everywhere from APG, crew chiefs, to AFIN, CNAD, and AR. They all do their different inspections. We put everything back together, and typically it'll be 14, 18 days from fly to fly.
And when you say AFIN and AR, what are all those? What do some of those acronyms mean to some of our layman folks out there?
Those aero repair. They are crew chiefs that handle all of the rigging of flight controls and such. AFIN is automatic flight controls and navigation. CNAD is communication. So we really go through every single section of this plane with all the different specialists in order to make sure it's wartime ready. The size of the cargo that NASA needs to transport. They need to nail this down, and they'll open up these pressure doors, and that'll, not having the troop compartment here, will allow them to push in the oversized cargo that they need to haul. Now, the Node 1 that they used in order to transport the first piece of the International Space Station, they took about 6 hours to load or unload that piece of equipment, and it came within an inch or so of each one of the walls. So all the movements that they had to make were very deliberate and very delicate in order not to hurt both the machinery and the aircraft itself.
So that's some serious pre-planning before they put this thing.
Very much so, yes. It has a lot of time, a lot of planning. You just need to move really slow.
And normally with these C5s at Travis, they don't just fly to NASA areas in California. They fly all over the country?
Yes, that's correct. They also use them in Desert Storm. They use them for other type of military missions. They've used them to take a Rex C-130 Hercules airplane that wrecked over in Kuwait. They took it apart and put it in here to bring it back to Arizona's Boneyard for an investigation and for dumping. This airplane landed just under 2 weeks ago. We are now, as you can hear around us, finishing up with our ISO inspections. Typically, we have a very large squadron that works on this plane. We have all different types of classifications. We have arts that work here. We have straight civilians, active duty. We have AGR types that work here as well. So we have a lot of different people that need to coalesce into a working squadron to get these things out safely and in time.
And how many shifts do you guys normally work here? Is there day, night, evenings?
Yes, we have 3 shifts. So we have your day shift, swing shift, and mid shift. So we have people working on these planes around the clock.
Westover's public affairs program, particularly its tours, rely heavily on the professional maintainers out here who are known throughout the Air Force as the best C5 maintainers. And it's people like Airman Bowen who have helped us today to conduct an interview and learn more about this special airplane that we have here at Westover. And we thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for talking to me. Appreciate it.
The Westover Fire Department conducts various training sessions throughout the year to stay focused and knowledgeable for when it comes time to act. Preparation and safety are the most important things when attempting any kind of rescue. This is evident in the painstaking process required to suit up. The fire department conducted a recent high-angle rope rescue, and the public affairs staff was invited to come along and experience this training firsthand. Senior Airman Alex Brown suited up to accompany the rescue technicians. The first stage of the water tower is 156 feet tall, and took a while to scale the ladder leading up to the summit where the training would take place. The training team consisted of an instructor, 2 technicians, and 2 observers on the water tower, with an additional supporter at the base to keep tension on the ascending climber and simulated rescue skiff. Training like this takes place at Westover typically biannually. Sometimes it's done using the much smaller scale smokehouse located by the North Ramp. As well as training their own troops, they have worked with the Western Massachusetts Fire Chiefs Association to train both on base and in the surrounding community. The association fostered collaboration with the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Team, which is one of the nation's leaders in high-angle rope rescue. The Westover Fire Department presently has 28 rescue technicians that are certified in this style rescue. It reinforces skills they have already been taught during formalized training at Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas. Having this specialized training makes them available for increased support of the surrounding areas as well as here on base. Always ready, no matter the circumstances.
appreciate that most people that are watching this have seen a suicide prevention briefing before. Because when I was in the active duty Air Force a few years back, one thing that was happening that was very alarming was specifically in the Air Force, suicide rates were increasing dramatically. And so one of the first line of defense was, let's get out and brief everyone about suicide prevention. Let's stop these numbers from increasing. Let's keep our airmen safe. And what happened was it wasn't working. The rate still continued to increase. And so someone somewhere said, halt, we have to do something different. And they started to look at the research. And what they found in the research was that resiliency is a skill that you can build within yourself. So you take two airmen that are going through major life struggles, and you look at one that has the option of suicide, they're looking at that as an option, and you have one that does not have the option. And why does one person think of it as an option and one doesn't? And that is resiliency. And resiliency is one of those skills that we can actually build. Ann Maston, who's doing all this research on resiliency in children and adolescents, has come up with the key phrase, it's ordinary magic. It's why you'll see in a lot of Hollywood stories where the movie characters are all about overcoming the greatest of odds. And it's because it's magic. But it's ordinary. Ordinary day people can do it. The key is to start building it now. Not when you're in the midst of a storm, in the midst of a struggle, is to start building it day after day. And part of that is the mental pillar. Because there's 4 pillars. And I tell people, this probably dates me, but I tell them to think about a card table. And a card table has 4 legs on it. And when one leg gets weak, the whole table starts to shake. And that's how I think of the 4 pillars of resiliency. Those 4 pillars are what keeps us strong. So when one of those pillars starts to get weak, we shake as an individual. We struggle. And so one of the pillars is mental stability, is your mental pillar. And the thing I could say the most about your mental stability in 2 minutes is that you have the power through thoughts to alter your life. Your thoughts drive your actions. And in essence, they drive your world. And so I'll give you this quick example of Diana Nyad. She's a swimmer. She swam from Cuba to Florida, shark-infested waters, and she did it with no protective tank or equipment or anything. And the researchers, the scientists said, you can't do it. It's something that not even a 21-year-old athlete, healthy athlete, Olympic athlete could do. It's physically impossible. And this was a goal that she wanted to have. She said, I'm going to beat this world record. I'm going to do this. And so she set out to do it, and she failed. And she didn't only fail once, she failed 4 times. And once she was even bit by poisonous jellyfish. And she said, no, don't get me out of the water, just shoot me up with steroids so I can keep swimming. And she still failed that attempt. And so it's actually in an interview with Oprah, and Oprah says to her, so why did you think that you could do this when the greatest scientists have said, this is impossible? And she said, because I knew that there was one thing they could not measure. So I knew that their research was mistaken. She said, they could not measure my spirit. And she said, what I said to myself, see, this is where your thoughts come in. She said, I'm going to find a way. She said, every time someone said to me, you cannot do it, or there's this challenge, or this barrier, she said, no, I'm going to find a way through it. So I encourage you to think about in your own life, what kind of life mantra, what could you say to yourself to help you get through these tough times? And think about a different way to think through the process. It's going to keep you strong. I mean, think about it. A 64-year-old woman swam that, and they even said a 21-year-old couldn't do it. And so that is staying mentally strong is part of the resiliency that's going to help you during life struggles.
So I'm here to talk about the physical pillar. One of the 4 pillars is the physical pillar, and it's talking about exercising, eating healthy, and getting enough sleep. So proper nutrition and sleep habits and keeping yourself physically fit. And it could be the easiest of all the pillars because it's measurable, you can do it anywhere, anytime, but it's also sometimes considered the most difficult because you have to make time. So it can't be just one time a month. You come out, you do your PT once a month and prepare for your annual or 2 times annual test. It needs to be a lifestyle, something that you just do. And making time is, it seems hard, but it can be really easy. So people often come up with the reason that exercise is just too much because they can't fit it into their schedule. They just don't have enough time. And people say that to me all the time, and I think it's funny that my sister said just a couple of weeks ago, I wish I had time to work out. I wish I had enough time to do what it is you do. Well, I work full time. I'm a single parent. I have 2 teenage kids, and when I have time is at 4:45 in the morning. That's what I set my alarm clock for. I get up and I put my sneakers on, and that's when I work out. So I told her, well, that's how I have time, because I make time. I fit it into my schedule. So you can make it happen. Sometimes if you're not a morning person, you can fit it at the end of your work day. Just make some time, like I said, even if it's just 5 minutes, just fit it in, and the next day it'll be more, or just go from there. As far as eating healthy, you need to, in order to work out and exercise, another part is eating healthy and keeping yourself well. So eating food is what fuels your body and gives you the energy to do the exercises you need to do. So also that might seem like a really difficult task, getting all the ingredients and making these incredible meals, but start off small. If you drink whole milk, switch to 1%. If you drink 1%, drink skim. Maybe you have dessert every night after dinner. Maybe you want to start having fruit a couple of nights a week. Have an apple instead. If you're coming out to drill and you're in a hurry, make sure instead of eating snack cakes from your unit snack bar, maybe you grab a couple of apples. Make sure you bring those with you so you have that and not just grabbing at junk snacks. And then proper sleep. So you need to make sure you get enough sleep to rest your body so you can get through your day and have the strength that you need to do all that you need to do. Most adults need approximately 8 to 9 hours of sleep. We probably don't get that. Most people don't, but other people don't need quite as much as that. So you gauge your own body, see how you work best, and see what it is that your body needs. And so you just keep it all simple. Start off small. Start off with some simple, measurable goals. Give yourself a way to be successful. And then when you feel successful, you probably want to do more.
One of the ways to keep yourself strong is by building your social support group. I call it your wingman. Finding out who your wingman is. I encourage you today and every weekend that you're here, look around, get to know people, see who has approachable, friendly demeanor, get to know them, and, have their phone number, know that person that you can call if you're having a hard time. In that same way in your civilian life, they've actually said out of these 4 pillars, if there was one that might be starred, that was the most important in keeping you strong, is actually the social aspect. Because when you think about it, when you're having a hard time, you can't just turn to yourself. You have hopefully a whole circle of people around you to support you, your support network. And so they even say that when you're going to deploy, make sure that you have a plan to stay connected to those people that you love, that are going to be there for you through it and afterward. I know we've all heard about being a wingman, finding a wingman, and I just hope today it's one of those things that you take time to think about. Who is that person in your life? Who is the person that you know that you could call in the middle of the night and they're going to answer the phone and they're going to be there for you? And if you know the person, I encourage you to let them know that they are your person. They are your wingman. They're the person that's going to be there for you in the hard times. So they know when you're struggling to drop things when it comes to you, because you use them as one of your main supports. And it's okay to have a backup wingman, to have more than one wingman.
Resiliency is kind of an interesting nebulous thing. I've heard it talked about as kind of like a rubber band, and how springy are you, and how can you kind of come back, and how elastic are you, and how once you're stretched and pulled can you come back to the norm. And the funny thing about the spiritual pillar of resiliency is it's best kind of thought of as the other end of your tether, because if you're kind of just bouncing around and not sure who you really are or what really is core to who you are, you just kind of spring and fly all over the place. So the spiritual piece is best thought of as the other end, that other end of the elasticity that just kind of you pull back to. What do you come back to actually be? And it's kind of interesting because that can play itself out in a lot of ways. How do you see the world? What are your core values? What faith model do you have that shapes your world? And Jesus of Nazareth, I don't know about you, but from my faith tradition, Jesus of Nazareth says a couple things that, oh, by the way, also tend to line up with some things that are true. He says that there were once two men, and one of them built his house on sand, and the other one dug down underneath the sand and found good sound bedrock and built his house on that solid foundation. And when the storms came, the storms of life, the one that had built his house on the sand, well, his house just fell right down. But the one who dug down and found the bedrock and built his house on that, his house was able to stand and stay firm and just last through all the rockiness and the hard things. And I think it's interesting because all of us have seen people around us who've encountered hardship, and some have done well and some haven't. And I would encourage you to search down and dig down and find those things that are the bedrock in your life, those core things. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's some guiding philosophies. Maybe it's, I don't know, the Air Force values or something, or maybe it's your faith. But the neat thing is if we only have those things and it's the Air Force values we put on the wall and that's it, and it's the kind of you know how it is. We all kind of laugh about that. But if we start to internalize them and it becomes who we are, then they can be a real source of strength and hope. And how do you do that? How do you take those ideas and meditate on them and figure it out? Well, I've heard it said that the only way you know something is true is if you test it. And so reach in and prod and figure it out. And if you're a person of faith, get in and read your sacred text. Pray, meditate on them. If you're a person that kind of looks at other things to find their values and how it shapes the world, test them, massage them. Is this true? Is it not true? What are the implications of that? Because here's the thing. We've got to test and massage and strengthen all pillars of our resiliency. Because remember, human beings, when we talk resiliency, we're talking about people. And we're talking about people that are essentially in three parts. They've got their mind, they've got their physical body, they've got their spiritual component. And they are all part of who we are. If you talk to a hospital or you talk to doctors, they'll talk about you've got to have each of the three pieces working to bring a person back to full health. And if you talk to the Air Force, now we're talking about this idea of comprehensive airman fitness. And if you look at humans, we've got fingers, we've got eyes, we've got ears, and so we're designed to engage with other three-part beings. So the social piece comes in there. So what we talk about when we're talking about resiliency is how can we spring back to be as strong as possible and to bring everything we have to not only our Air Force family, but to our wingman and to the world around us. So for the rest of today, and maybe for a little bit longer, think about what you need to do, because if one part of our four-part being is weak, it shapes all of it. It is true that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if you've got three strong parts and one weak part, focus on that, build it, and make yourself as resilient as possible so that the rest of us can count on you to be who you need to be.
This is a Westover Look Back. I'm Master Sergeant Andrew Biscoe. Well, Westover's been here since 1939, and a lot of people pay attention to the history of the base. Specifically about 5 years ago, when a group of folks got together and decided that it was important to commemorate the history of the base by placing 5 models of historic airplanes that once flew at Westover. The one behind me is one of them. It is a KC-135 Stratotanker. This airplane is a replica of an actual KC-135 that flew out of here during Westover's Strategic Air Command era. On June 27, 1958, number 563630 flew out of Westover to New York to London to break a transatlantic speed record, along with one other KC-135A. Both aircraft were assigned to the 99th Air Refueling Squadron here at Westover during its SAC heyday, where Headquarters 8th Air Force was the lead chain of command at the base. Important to note also is that this airplane, number 563630, was flown by Major Burl Davenport, who was the aircraft commander, again with the 99th Air Refueling Squadron here at the base. 3630 was originally going to be part of 4 airplanes that were part of Operation Topsail, Strategic Air Command's massive effort to show the world the capabilities of the then new KC-135 Stratotanker. Of the 4 airplanes, only 2 got off the ground to break the speed record. The third one crashed here just off the runway at Westover in neighboring Chicopee Falls on June 27th. All 15 people aboard the airplane were killed, including a 1-star general, Brigadier General Donald Saunders. The 4th airplane was ordered to stay on the ground after the accident that claimed the lives of those 15 airmen and newsmen that were along for the ride to record that moment of history in aeronautics and aviation. The 2 airplanes that were in the lead carried on and did break the transatlantic speed record and returned to Westover the next day. They were part of the 99th Air Refueling Squadron, which was one of 2 air refueling squadrons here at the base, the other being the 384th, which flew KC-97 tankers, which were propeller-driven older airplanes that were the first airplanes to land here on April 20th, 1955, the same month that SAC took over operations here at Westover. SAC concluded operations at Westover in 1974, handing the keys over to the Air Force Reserve.
Thank you.